So ladies, gentlemen, welcome back to another news roundup video. Today we have even more interesting topics to talk about. As always, the video is timestamped just in case you want to skip around the various news stories that we cover here, but I recommend watching all of it to stay up to date with all of my takes. The first story of today's video, ladies and gentlemen, is, as I always say, an interesting one, because the other day in my previous news roundup, which you may or may not have seen, we covered the whole story about Brainiac supposedly being the villain for Man of Tomorrow. We've got a little bit of an update in just a bit with James Gunn's sort of acknowledgement of that. But today, speaking of Man of Tomorrow, well, we have, thanks to Nexus Point News, a certain casting breakdown which makes it seem like, maybe, just maybe, what if Diana, Wonder Woman herself, could make an appearance in the movie? But let's just dive into it. So exclusive, Man of Tomorrow casting description hints at new hero joining the DCU. And big shout out to Nexus Point News again. Seriously, these guys are like the MVPs of a DCU. Scoops, excuse me, while I sip my coffee. So as announced last week, DC Studios is currently casting Brainiac, the lead villain of Man of Tomorrow. In addition, a new female role is being cast to join the film. So she's described as being in her late 20s and having an edge to her. What's interesting is there's a height requirement for this character, and they're looking for taller actresses. In addition, the character is being described as being a warrior and having a strong physique. All details point to this character being Wonder Woman, a character that has been highly requested by fans to make her DCU debut. Other potential candidates for this mystery character could be Big Barda or Black Canary. Wonder Woman's appearance could also set her up to appear in her solo film, which, as we know, is being written by Anna Noguera, the writer of Supergirl. So first thing out the gate is that this doesn't mean it's Wonder Woman. Even Apocalyptic Horseman, who works at Nexus Point News, says, please don't take this as confirmation for Wonder Woman. I still think it's most likely her, but it could also be Maxima, Big Barda, Black Canary, or Starfire. Now, I'm seeing suggestions all across the board. I actually honestly am with kind of Apocalyptic Horseman here, where he says, obviously don't take this as confirmation for Wonder Woman because that would be ridiculous. There's just no way we can do that. And he says, I still think it's most likely her. I will say that in my gut, I do think it is more likely Diana, maybe. And we're going to get into that in a second. But yes, it could be other characters. Now, Maxima is a character that I can understand more. Initially, I was a bit like, I don't know, like really amongst this Brainiac thread, we just all of a sudden get, I don't know, Maxima coming in, simping after Superman. I can't imagine a levity kind of comedic thing that Gunn could do that. But then, as I was streaming last night about it, a lot of people pointed out how James Gunn could be taking influence from the comic book crossover event, Panic in the Sky, where you literally have Brainiac try and invade Earth with Mongol's warworld, and he does all of this after destroying Maxima's homeworld, Almerac, with warworld. Like, he literally destroyed it. He spared Maxima due to Brainiac's mercy, I guess you could say, and, kind of let her tag along. Now, I actually wasn't so familiar with this, so I breezed through a bit of the comic. I still have to kind of go knee-deep into it, but I tried to, flick through it before making this video. I was like, okay, I can see what people are saying here and how Maxima could actually come in. I know the role that she plays in that comic. That does make quite a lot of sense, actually, now, with regards to that being a character I could actually see James Gunn introducing, her kind of feeling compassion and empathy for what is happening to Earth after what happened to her own planet, and obviously maybe her backstabbing Brainiac, who got overconfident thinking that he could just keep her along for the ride, when really she actually ends up helping Superman, Lex Luthor. So with the Maxima thing, I think that's the second most likely character this could be for this casting breakdown, if not Wonder Woman. Because again, you can just imagine a James Gunn movie plot line of this where that character is in it. Do you know what I mean? And maybe she really starts to fall a bit for Superman, and there's a thing they could play off there where Clark just isn't really interested. But now going to the argument for Diana, bringing it back to Wonder Woman. The reason why I think it could still be her is what I have been, and like if you've been watching me guys for a little while now, you'll know that the more we learned about Man of Tomorrow, the more I've kind of started to come out and say, I struggle. So like before we get into Wonder Woman, I suppose we need to talk about Bruce Wayne, because it kind of really applies to one and the other. Because how do you do a movie with the threat of Brainiac coming to crush the planet like he did with Maxima's world? This is what we're assuming here. And like, you know, it's fairly obvious that Brainiac is indeed the villain. No, James Gunn, like I was waiting to see if he would confirm it before and after my news roundup. He hasn't. He didn't debunk it. That's very telling. And if anything, he posted a picture of bloody brain cells, which... Do I need to say more? So how do you do a story about Brainiac and not have one of the founding members of the Justice League, especially in a fantastical DCU, where Batman would not only be locked into Gotham, but have the interests of, well, the whole freaking planet in mind, right? Or like, as we see in stories, Batman and Wonder Woman kind of control the ground forces from said Brainiac invasion, while Superman and whoever else is out there trying to, like, you know, go at him into space. You see what I mean? So I'm just saying, on the baseline, it just would feel weird to not have Batman even, and like, this is what I'm also trying to make clear. I'm not saying he's going to be a major supporting role. This is a Lex Luthor and Superman movie, more so a Lex Luthor one. By the end of the film, Bruce Wayne could introduce himself saying, hey, we need to talk. That's if Clark doesn't already know Batman. It's like, I've been watching you for some time, Mr. Kent. I don't know. Just insert idea here. Soft introduction, and basically the reason why I talk about that is because when it comes to Wonder Woman, yes, there's a similar principle. Like, how do like the Amazons and Wonder Woman just kind of like, right, okay, yeah, I see all this stuff going down, you know, oh, the Themyscira, maybe we don't need to worry about Brainiac. Now, I know when people hear this, they're like, right, BVS Mark II, like, oh, they're just gonna, you know, introduce all these characters. I just wouldn't want to go into it in bad faith. I do think if very carefully crafted and curated, I do think that there's a way to introduce characters like this, especially when there's reason to. If there's a gigantic threat like Brainiac, but it's mostly sorted out by Superman and Lex Luthor, I again want to ask you guys, wouldn't it be weirder to not have acknowledgement of what the Bruce Wayne perspective is on this, the Diana, you know, Wonder Woman perspective is on this? Let me know your response to that. Again, that doesn't mean overstuffing the film. It doesn't mean like this, that, and the other. I'm just genuinely saying I wouldn't be surprised. Because also, another thing I always pivot to in conversation here is when the DCU was announced, the Batman 2, you've probably seen posts like this on Twitter or Instagram, like, the Batman 2 was supposed to release today, but now it's 2 years from now. So when they were first announcing DC Batman with all the other projects, they thought that the Batman Part 2 would have already released. So you know what that means? The DCU Batman movie would have been much, much closer to now. But since that's not happening, since the Batman 2 isn't even coming out until 2027, and we know the kind of rough rules there with regards to, you know, the DCU Batman movie isn't until now after 2027, well, if I was James Gunn, and I really do think this is the case, there's no way you do not entertain the conversation of, oh, since we are waiting this long to even do an actual independent project with the DC Batman, do we really wait to show him at all in another movie? Even if it's in a 5-minute end of movie scene, like, yeah, you've gone through the whole thing, the whole plot, the whole art, they saved the day, boom, Bruce Wayne walks in. Like, I'm not saying George Clooney, the Flash style necessarily, but I could imagine and maybe be okay with a soft introduction like that. And so maybe with Wonder Woman as well. I've seen other suggestions like, what if it's Mercy Graves? What if Lena Luthor is out there? And, you know, like, it could. I don't know why Black Canary would show up. You know, I don't know. Like, tell me if I'm wrong and why I could be wrong as to why I don't know why said character could show up. But those are my reasons as to why you could have Wonder Woman pop up. Why I think, yeah, Maxima is a good suggestion for a casting in a movie, because it's going to be new characters, obviously. And one more thing as well, actually, is that this would kind of set up what would probably be like arguably the next big DCU movie, like aside from Clayface and everything, after 2027, Man of Tomorrow, yeah, you're probably going to have Wonder Woman be the next kind of, okay, let's change the slide, put the kind of zoom in lens on DC Wonder Woman, which is literally being, as we know, expedited in the script writing process right now. So is it so outlandish to imagine that you could have Wonder Woman pop up in an event where it's like, oh, well, damn, am I really going to just have, you know, twiddle my fingers and do nothing? Maybe she'll help out. Now, in other DC news, ladies and gentlemen, well, it turns out, according to Gunn, that the Jimmy Olsen Grodd crime investigation series is not called DC Crime. So Gunn says, just FYI, there has never been a project titled DC Crime in development, not even as a working title. I don't know where that came from, but it's weird. But he did also clarify that doesn't mean, by the way, that the Jimmy Olsen series isn't real. But he also replied to another person saying, damn, I love how you're always being online and instantly debunking this kind of stuff, James. And like, before anyone says Gunn says too much or this, that, and the other, this is what I am grateful for. Because in other franchises, stuff like this would come out and it would be taken as fact for the next, God, like, I don't know, year and a half, however long it takes until the movie or show comes out. That's the thing. That's what I'm grateful for with Gunn, just shutting things down that are like absolutely not true sometimes, because then, boom, clarity. I personally do like that. Now, another rumor that has been put out there recently is by none other than Pierce Brosnan himself, where he said that he heard Dr. Fate could appear in a Superman movie and something else, but we've got an update on it. So initially he said, I've never banged down anyone's door. I mean, they know where to find me. I've heard that Dr. Fate was going to have his own show or his own movie. I've heard that he's going to be in the next Superman. And when this happened, I instantly said, look, I'm not going to call Pierce Brosnan a liar or anything. It's just, I don't reckon he's like super locked in to all of this stuff. So unless he's actually heard that stuff from DC Studios, it kind of felt like to me the vibe of where he's like maybe remembering a rough, perhaps post-Black Adam plan, pre-The Flash movie, where The Flash movie could have brought him back kind of thing. And he's like, oh yeah, I heard this could be happening. Or like maybe he's heard, like as some actors do, because of fans saying, oh yeah, this could happen. It gets back to him somehow. And he's like, yeah, I've heard that. And then lo and behold, we have James Gunn basically say, my opinion is I've never heard a Dr. Fate rumor. Now, some people are also saying that's not exactly shutting it down. It's just Gunn saying, I've never heard a Dr. Fate rumor. What are you on about? That doesn't mean a Dr. Fate thing isn't happening with Pierce Brosnan. I don't know, man. I think it's probably unlikely. Now, would I like to see Pierce Brosnan return as Dr. Fate? Yeah, I would love that. Like, that would be a cool thread, as Gunn calls it, a thread of canon to maintain from the DCEU. That would be cool. My rule of thumb is the more recasts, the better in my mind. Like, if I could have it that way, I would have had it that way from the get-go. But since we are maintaining some threads of canon, like Peacemaker characters and whatnot from the DCEU, Gunn keeping that thread of Pierce Brosnan, like he never basically died in Black Adam, that version of events or whatever, that would be cool. But I really wouldn't read into this. Now, before we get into some other DC news, we have some interesting Marvel news to talk about, such as Sadie Sink has apparently been cast in Avengers Secret Wars. Now, Sadie Sink's character in Brand New Day has been long spoken about. Like, I remember the AI images of her being the Punisher's sidekick were coming out, and like everyone was thinking, okay, maybe she's going down the Rachel Cole route. But you know, I doubt you're gonna. I doubt you're gonna have that character like return after Brand New Day in like something like Secret Wars. So obviously that's when we go back to the whole, oh, what if she could be Mayday Parker? What if she could be somebody like Firestar? What if she could be Jean Grey? Ultimately, none of us know. Like, it is really, really, really fascinating when you think about how this character is in Spider-Man Brand New Day. And now, this is coming from Deadline, by the way. And this is all coming around the same time of rumors of, okay, we know that Tom Holland's Spider-Man probably isn't in Doomsday by the way things have been going, but that doesn't mean Spider-Man isn't in Avengers Doomsday. And that is because, you may have seen us already, reports are going around everywhere that because Entertainment Insider, Daniel Richmond, this comes from The Direct, claimed in a report that Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man will appear in Avengers Doomsday. Interestingly, in September 2025, a fan spotted Maguire in London, the same location where Doomsday was filmed, and this sparked speculation. Now, I think originally a lot of people were obviously thinking maybe more Secret Wars alongside all of the other batshite crazy things that could happen there with all kinds of characters. But this would be interesting. I would love to see what the reason for that, like where is Tom Holland's Peter and you know, why isn't he in the movie and what are they going to do there? But you also, hey, I'm Peter, I can help out. I'm going to come through this portal. Like there's a lot of weird doomy, woomy things happening that way with what he's trying to do in the film. So why not bring Peter back through this, you know? I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised. Obviously, take it with a grain of salt. I, you know, feel mixed about it in the sense that, hey, like there's the fan goggles version of me that's like, oh my God, yes. Obviously, I grew up with the freaking Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies, but also I don't want it to just be for the sake of it. And also, you know, I know people are worrying like, oh my God, in before, you know, Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man dies in Doomsday. Like, you know, they're just doing, yeah, they're going to do that, aren't they? I swear to God. So, I don't know. We'd love to know your thoughts on the whole Sadie Sink thing. You know, who do you think she will be playing? What role do you think she will have? Let me know what you think about no Tom Holland Spider-Man, but maybe Tobey Maguire Spider-Man? Speaking of Marvel, ladies and gentlemen, we have a new still from Daredevil Born Again Season 2. And I know not everyone loves this suit, but I do. What I love about, again, this look in general is amazing. I think Charlie Cox looks incredible there. I like the upgrades and the subtle changes to the suit. But what I love about this suit from the behind the scenes filming we saw of Season 2 is you can see, yes, it's got like this kind of coating of black, but you got the 2 Ds on the chest there, the logo, the emblem. But the more he, like, you know, scrapes up and has battle wear on the suit, like, basically that black paint comes off and it exposes the underneath red of the Daredevil suit. And the more it gets battle worn, the more it looks sick, like sicker. It just continuously looks cooler and cooler as the red bleeds through. And personally, for me, I think that's an amazing creative choice. Again, I know not everyone loves it, but for me, I love how it's starting off like this. This is like quite a clean version of the suit. But again, from behind the scenes filming, we see that, imagine like some blades scrape up against it, like, you know, some scraping on the floor. You have that nice red being exposed. And that just, the thing about Daredevil Season 2 is there's such a high bar, probably with this expectation with regards to Season 1. Obviously wasn't what it was planned to kind of be. Like, it was creatively retooled and, you know, you had to salvage what you could. And as a result, it wasn't great, but people understood that. But now you can do what you want from the get-go. I almost feel bad for the show because will it actually ever live up to expectations? The landscape was open, and that was so liberating. Producer Sana Amana tells Empire of Season 2. We were like, we can do whatever we want. Now, I want to make it clear, just kind of like Batman, I am a Daredevil apologist, so I am really rooting for this show. I'm going in with a lot of optimism for Season 2. That doesn't mean my expectations are miles high. I think I'm going to like kind of keep my expectations tempered. But I would love to know what you're thinking. Are you looking forward to Season 2? Do you feel a similar way to me? I wouldn't like to think that people are like going in Season 2 basing it on like how Season 1 was, because again, completely 2 different approaches. Either way, I've rambled about this enough. Daredevil, baby. Love this look. And I'm looking forward to even more when it comes to Season 2. Now, speaking of Empire previews, this is where we also have a Mandalorian and Grogu look. Now, you guys know me. I mean, you should know me. I'm a diehard Star Wars fan. Obviously, Star Wars isn't really in that kind of place of, for a lot of the audience out there, the brand perception is like, it wasn't what it was. I sure that might not apply to you right there. Now, this is like the difficult thing. I really like, and/or peak Star Wars in my mind. I know not everyone agrees with that, but a lot of people do. And that's the best thing Disney's ever done with Star Wars, like in terms of putting out a piece of content, right? Writing-wise and everything else. Mandalorian is also one of those great things Disney did. Like, most people agree with that. But the thing is, last season, you know, it kind of dipped quite a bit. So I think, you know, with other things and the commentary and sense of Star Wars, The Mandalorian and Grogu, you know, after things like the Book of Boba Fett and Ahsoka, you know, I loved Balin's Skull and Shin Hati, you know, things like that. But was it like exceptional? I don't know about that. So like you going into Mandalorian and Grogu, I'm looking forward to a lot of the Star Wars-isms that the show achieved, because I think Filoni and whatnot really gets like what makes a Star Wars set, and you know, little aspects and increments to the characters and the story that feels Star Wars. But then again, you know, all while that was true with the latest season of The Mandalorian, the story overall was still quite underwhelming. So could this movie feel the same? So like seeing this look, it's like, hey, I love Din Djarin. Look how sick he looks. Look how like cute Grogu looks cool. And it's a very Star Wars Cantina looking Star Wars Cantina. I just feel like I'm not in a place of being like super, super buzzed. And I'd love to know what you guys think. I know people are in different places, because I remember when I spoke about the trailer, people were like, no, I'm absolutely gassed for it. That was just the first teaser. You're not meant to see this, that, and the other. So I don't know. I wouldn't say I'm not looking forward to it, but I just wouldn't say that I'm like what I've been like with The Mandalorian before, going into The Mandalorian and Grogu movie. Now, in another side of movie news, we have our first looks at Link and Zelda in Sony's upcoming live-action Legend of Zelda movie. Now, I'm a Zelda fan. Like, I mean, I remember playing, you know, I didn't actually play it, like, growing up, but then as soon as, like, you know, we had Ocarina of Time come out on the 3DS, Majora's Mask, played all of those many, many years ago now. Breath of the Wild, haven't actually finished Tears of the Kingdom yet. But yeah, absolutely inherently a fan. Now, when I see this, I was speaking on stream, and it's not like I'm not looking forward to it, and it's not like I don't think this looks good. Like, obviously, the environment looks amazing. That looks like Hyrule to me. That looks like Link and Zelda, the costuming as well. Really, really good. Like, I wouldn't really expect anything else for a look of Zelda and Link there. I think I'm very wary when it comes to video game adaptations these days, where I'm just skeptical. So I want to be that kind of fan where it's like, yes, cannot wait for this movie. But I just know, you know, I'm not saying it's going to be another Borderlands or something like that. But do you see where I'm coming from? I look at this and I'm like, okay, like, please be good. You look pretty good, but I think for me, beyond pictures here, okay, good first impression, but because of my skepticism, I feel like I'm warming to it even more. I want to see it in motion. Now, I know there is leaked footage. That's not really what I'm on about. I want to see that kind of teaser where you get a sense of the score. Even if it's like a 13-second teaser, you get a sense of the lighting, the cinematography, the kind of, you know, vibe of it. That's, I think, what I need to be sucked into this. Other than that, just gonna remain a bit apprehensive for now. But I understand if you don't feel that way, but for me, it's just like there's been video game adaptations where it's like, oh God. Okay, like even with decent efforts put in, it's still sometimes not what you want it to be. And I just hope that Legend of Zelda from Sony can be that. But overall, as a first look, you know, thumbs up. Just need a little bit more convincing, personally. But I know plenty of people are like really, really gassing this up. Now, going back to DC Studios news, we've got some interesting tidbits here, and I love going through little tidbit segments. Like, it might not be like Brainiac casting level news kind of thing, but stuff like this you can really kind of sink your teeth into. And this is about Mike Flanagan's Clayface, because he wrote the movie, as we know. And we've got a few comments here, which, you know, as usual, some of it was being misconstrued as, oh my God, Robert Pattinson's Batman merging to the DCU. So initially here, Mike Flanagan says that Gotham in Clayface wasn't inspired by Matt Reeves' Gotham, but rather Feet of Clay from Batman the Animated Series, which, as we know, the script was. So he says, no, when we first started talking about Clayface, I hadn't seen what Matt Reeves was up to. So it went all the way back to Feet of Clay, that incredible two-parter with Ron Perlman voicing the character, which was so formative for me as a kid. Now, this is when he says, Clayface, I had so much fun developing that with Matt and then with James and Peter. It was one of the great sadnesses of my career that I'm so sorry that when it came to time to make it and they wanted to make this movie right away, I wasn't available. And I could only imagine like how, well, yeah, as he said, like sad he would have felt about that, because I would have loved nothing more than not only Mike Flanagan to write this, but to direct it. But he was just caught between a rock and a hard place. Hey, I have to go make Carrie. Now, this is where he said he developed it with Matt Reeves. Now, this can be taken in two ways, where Clayface maybe, despite him saying, first of all, when they first started developing it, he hadn't seen what Matt Reeves was up to, but you could argue that Clayface could have initially started out to be more of a Reeves-verse kind of thing. There's been conversations explored about that before, but also I wouldn't be surprised if this was something Matt Reeves just kind of helped, as he has with Batman Cape Crusade, as he has Dynamic Duo, as he has with so many things. As I keep saying, Matt Reeves over at Warner Brothers has the, if like I had a little kind of store badge on, or Matt Reeves did rather, it would say Batman Guru. So it wouldn't surprise me if he helped develop Clayface in the sense of not even putting it in his own epic crime saga universe. And then, as Mike Flanagan says, with James and Peter, which obviously they're DCU, so obviously they kind of would like to help develop it. And then during Screen Rant's Midnight Mass panel with Mike Flanagan and Kate Siegel, this is where, you know, some more interesting tidbits came out of it. The horror filmmaker talked about whether Pattinson could be DCU's Batman as his Clayface film is coming up. He stated, of course, yeah, I gotta be careful. I know DC fans, especially. I don't want to get on anyone's bad side of this kind of stuff, because James Gunn is running DC his way, and I think it's great. Don't blame him one bit about that, and I'm kind of glad that he's very aware of like what answering this kind of question is like. But Flanagan made it clear, however, I have no idea what the plan is for any of that. I do know, though, that Matt Reeves is a creative powerhouse. I think the world in the Gotham that he built is wonderful. I think the Penguin works on the big screen and on television. And then he goes on to say, I do think there is a way to harmonize all of these elements into the DC universe, which I think is what James is doing in his way. Now, in that last comment, people have been like, oh, Flanagan just confirmed, despite him saying he has no idea what the plan is for any of that, despite saying I have no idea, went on to say and confirm that Pattinson is joining the DCU, because he said there is a way to harmonize all of these elements, which I think is what James is doing in a way. That's not what he means. What he means is like, yes, in his personal opinion, there is a way to harmonize all of these elements, maybe under one flag of the DCU. And when he's saying, which I think is what James is doing in his way, he's talking about harmonizing all of these elements with the variety of tone that will be in the DCU, despite people saying otherwise right now. This is why I keep saying, yes, we've just had Gunn projects as of right now, but do not forget you are getting 3 projects in a row, Lantern, Supergirl, and Clayface, which are written and directed by other people, all of them, and they all have different tones. One's True Detective, kind of Lantern's investigation series, one's Supergirl, you know, that speaks for itself, and one is a body horror Clayface movie. So Gunn is like allowing all of these, you know, elements and tones to be in his DCU. That's what Mike Flanagan means when he says, which I think is what James is doing in his way. Now, I've also had a lot of people reach out to me saying, Boba, what do you think about the Batman 2 Harvey Dent Oscar Isaac thing? So basically, this came from Jeff Snyder, but people kind of took that report and misconstrued it. Like, he apparently never actually said, Oscar Isaac is Harvey Dent. It was more, as DC Film News go to clarify here, and good for them, good on them for actually being a news outlet page that doesn't just kind of re-report, if that's even a way to say it, for the sake of clicks, even though you know that's not what was said. They went to clarify the story and said, Jeff Snyder said it just wouldn't shock him if Oscar Isaac ends up in the Batman. He clarifies, to his knowledge, no offers have been made. He was simply speculating based on Isaac's availability and the fact that Reeves had initially eyed him for the first film. Now, we've talked about Oscar Isaac a billion times with regards to the epic crime saga. Like, could he be Harvey Dent? Could he be maybe a possible candidate for the new Rogues Gallery villain? I don't know. But yeah, he would be great. But is he actually going? No, there's nothing to this story, at least right now, but technically doesn't rule out that, yeah, like, he could still actually be one of the considerations for who Matt Reeves might be looking at when casting for part 2. But that is the end of today's news roundup video, ladies and gentlemen. Let me know your thoughts on everything. every topic we covered. If you made it to this part of the video, I'd greatly appreciate a like, a hype. Consider sharing it on social media as well. That would really help out the channel. Consider subscribing if you want to stay up to date with more news roundups just like this. But until next time, thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.